I do not know where to begin. Hello and welcome to the NT Recap, where we aim to discuss just enough news to recap the week that's been in and around the NT. I have to say, we made it through this week. I feel a sense of relief, and I see it in the community at the moment that people are happy that they made it through the week when there are thousands of people that have come into the NT at the moment.
Over 5,000 people in the first few days came across the border. And I think everybody, we talked about this last week where everybody was feeling, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. But what's been interesting is that, have you noticed that your local shops and whatever, everyone is standing that 1.5 metres away and doing the distancing and doing all the things, they are actually sort of like, maybe we should do this
I saw the
again.
stickers on the ground and then people used to just ignore them. Yeah. But now people are standing on those stickers around the place.
So we're doing the things that we've been encouraged to do. Yeah. I think there's still a bit of unease about it, but, we, as you say, we made it and there's been things on and... On we go in the beautiful weather of the Northern Territory.
I mean, it's such great weather at the moment.
So good.
Like the mornings are cool, the evenings are cool, the day, it's not too hot. I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, you're always out on the water.
I love being out on the water, folks. And I mean, I love just being out there in general. I mean, whether you're camping or taking the dogs for a walk, she's cool lads, get out there, get amongst it. I mean, and I've spoken to people that went down to Litchfield yesterday. No one there. No one, Bully Rock Hole, no Florence, nobody.
Well, that reminds me that actually NT tourism vouchers are on at the moment. In terms of if you got one of the lucky few to get those vouchers.
6 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was.
Exactly. If you are one of the lucky people that have those vouchers, you need to use them because you have to use them by the 31st of July. At the moment, they say that over half of the people haven't used those vouchers right now. So, I mean, you can go to Litchfield, you can go to all of these places around.
Will they reissue them?
Well, apparently there's a wait list.
All right.
So if you don't use them, then it goes to the next people on the wait list.
Right.
So that's how they're managing.
So it doesn't really matter whether you use them or not. Eventually the money will get spent.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like a My Darwin thing though, how they keep redoing it? Do you think? Or
Good question. I don't think so, but who knows? Watch this space.
All part of the economic recovery.
Exactly. But let's talk about, we've got a jam-packed show for you this week, lots of broad range of topics. I wanted to talk first about one of the things that I think is a little bit controversial at the moment, which is CDU releasing their plans for their new city campus. And the reason why I think it's controversial is that the plans have been released and a whole half of the side has glass on it. So they're saying that it's a building that's not designed for the tropics. No, it could increase the heat in the CBD.
It's a high performance facade is what I read. It's not the side of a building at all. It's a high performance facade. It's a high performance facade which can be optimized with ongoing design development, i.e. try not to make it full of glass. I think that was the thing. Yeah. So they got scolded by the Australian Institute of Architects, who went to the DCA, which are the people who say whether or not you can build something in the city, and said, actually, this doesn't really suit tropical. And so suddenly there was another little bit of a development design, which was ongoing for apparently, which makes it much more friendly environmentally. So,
but it's totally at odds with the city of Darwin's plans to reduce heat in the city. I mean, you've got all of the trees now being built in the city. You've got the Kavanagh overpass thing, which again is meant to reduce heat in the city.
Was it designed by an architect from down south, per chance? Because that seems to be sort of the case with a lot of these buildings, and everyone gripes about it.
It is a southern architect firm, and it does kind of have a little bit of a thing with, the famous story of the Darwin Hospital being built from, I think, a Canadian design with snow shutters on it, and they just took it anyway.
Apocalyptic.
I think if you're going to build something in the centre of town, but this is the thing. Right now, everybody is saying, come on, let's build something. Let's get some money. They've got the money from the Northern, the Infrastructure Fund federally. They've got money. They've got investors. They're ready to go. And then they're going, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying, no, too quick.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about cutting red tape. But I do think that there's a lot of bad taste in people's mouth over this site. I think it's a great initiative that they're doing. But I mean, Jerry Wood reminded us that there was a milkwood tree there that was cut down in the wee hours of Sunday morning when there were protests to potentially have it heritage listed. The boab tree that's currently in the car park, they think that might not survive another 4 to 5 years because of the designs encroaching too much on the route. So it's a little bit of a nightmare.
Development is like that all the time. I mean, really, it is sad, and I take it on board. But you can't stop a multi-million-dollar building for two trees.
People talk about necessary casualties and things like that, and unfortunately, I think that's the way it's probably going to go.
But also, they are planting. I mean, the other thing is, heads up to everybody who's planting. I think I read something in the paper, 7,000 trees planted in the Darwin CBD.
Yeah, I did read
and you are starting to feel it. And in places like the waterfront, which, 10 years ago was, very low in terms of shading, now those trees are mature. I mean, a lot of the plantings that are going on, I think they're doing a really good job. And it does feel like that we're actually getting a bit more shade. I walk around the city a bit, and I'm feeling like
You're not scootering around?
No, we've had that one. No,
choose life. Choose life.
Yeah.
But one of the things in terms of cutting red tape is that report that was released by the Territory Economic Reconstruction Commission, which is a bit of a mouthful.
The TERC, you just got to make sure, as long as you've got an acronym, you're fine. Which talks about growing our economy to a $40 billion economy. And I tried to work out, to be honest, I was like, is that good? I didn't know what we had. So I went and had a little look here. So we grew from a $14 billion economy to a $26 billion economy over 20 years.
Okay.
And now we're trying to grow to a $40 billion economy over 10 years.
Wow.
Now, when we grew, we had 25% growth in population, which we talked about, and we had 40% growth in workers over that time. Now, we're trying to double or, achieve the same thing in half the time without those growth figures, as I see.
Are they going to be anticipating people moving up here, do they think, after this recent pandemic? They're anticipating things like that?
Who would want to be here right now?
I think there's a little flicker. I think we got to two growth cycles in the real estate market for the first time since 1762 or whatever. But we are growing and everybody else is falling off the cliff because we look COVID safe and warm.
But it is interesting that report that was released. I mean, they want an extra 95 million for Kakadu, I believe. That's on top of the 216 million that the federal government just gave. They want 200 million to be spent on the Darwin waterfront, which is where we are right now.
Well, and also money to be spent on the Middle Arm port and stuff like that to make that part of the growth of an industry. Hydrogen, which everybody is talking about.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it.
And it's interesting that the CLP basically said on radio, I heard Leo Finocchiaro speaking on radio and saying, hang on, the Economic Recovery Commission have basically said, taken our policies. These are our policies. We're already saying that. But if you look back at what their policies are, and you go and look to see what they say about gas, for instance, or hydrogen, their idea in their own statement is that they would design and launch a pilot program to utilise solar and natural gas to create a hydrogen production industry. Now, that doesn't sound to me like 4 years. You know what I mean? That sounds to me like a long time. And I wonder, in this economic recovery, how much of it is going to be soon?
Yeah. But I do think it's interesting that essentially you've got Labor saying these are our policies, and you've got Liberal saying, no, these are our policies too. And then so you've got two parties that are kind of got similar policies. It's just really
trying to make a bit of political ground off the travel there. But wouldn't you hope that they'd all have the same idea and we'd all be pushing together?
Well, not if you don't like their policies. I mean, that's when I guess you've got the Territory Alliance and they've got different policies, and you've got Greens and
Independents
and whatever else.
I think it's interesting that we're going to grow from $40 billion to a $40 billion economy in 10 years. And people are still arguing about building Litchfield Pool, which I remember being more than 10 years ago. We haven't even managed to build that yet.
Yeah, speaking of Litchfield Pool, that was something, again, I bring Jerry Wood up, but he reminded us, I think this week, that in 2012, the chief minister at the time was Terry Mills, and Robin Lambley was the treasurer, and she announced in her mini budget statement, we're not going ahead with the pool. And now Terry Mills and Robin Lambley are like, no, we are going ahead with the rural pool. And I can understand why there's a lot of cynicism in the community as to what's happening with the pool. Is it going to happen? Is it a promised thing? But it's been going on for years.
I reckon that this was all being talked about when I was in high school. I mean,
was that last year?
It was a while ago.
Easily it was talked about. I think the ALP promised it in 2012, and that means that there's been a series of discussions before that, probably going back another 4 years. So as I say, build or not to build or not to
Yeah.
build, and yet we are convinced that we're going to be able to build a complete change in the structure of the Northern Territory and the infrastructure of the Northern Territory to make it a $40 billion economy in 10 years. Now, great aims, but let's look at the Litchfield pool and then think about whether or not we can get there.
At the end of the day, most people out in the rural area have pools.
Yeah.
Growing up out there, you can see the bottom of it. You can see if there's a croc in there before you hop in.
Was they going to build it at Fred's Pass at the footy ground? Was that the original idea?
I think it was the original idea. I mean, sure enough, there'd be people out there that would utilise it, but at the end of the day, it's not that far to go to Palmerston, is it, nowadays?
That's the thing. The rural area is almost becoming the suburbs now. Here, isn't it?
Yeah, but a rural pool is not just about whether you have one in your backyard. It's really about getting lots of people together, being able
community
to
spirited.
exactly being able to have swimming lessons, in a safe
And also,
environment.
be able to have competition swimming.
Competitions, exactly, and some people, not everybody has the benefit of a pool. So I do think it's an important thing. It's just interesting whether it will happen or not. But in terms of, you were going to talk also about some seabed mining.
Oh,
I believe.
actually, you asked me to talk about this, and I had to go. You probably know more about it than me. Because, you see, look at that, bouncing around. No, seabed mining.
No mining.
Fishing. Yeah, there we are. That's the answer, and that's
Done.
the answer that you'll get from most fish shows.
Top end.
Look for the 40 billion elsewhere.
And if you start talking about seabed mining in places like Blue Mud Bay, and we've seen, native title over those sorts of things, you're then upsetting two of your pretty strong constituents, fishermen and the Indigenous community, and those two things together. Pretty tough to
Every
achieve.
second driveway's got a boat.
I think essentially top end healthy coast, or keep top end coast healthy, that's the group. And they wanted, their report that came out said that essentially the economic benefits that would be got from seabed mining is relatively small with the negative impacts that are created to tourism and to fish and to the fishing
And before you
industry.
start thinking it's kind of like some sort of lefty kind of like wild wing, everybody wants to ban everything. It was the CLP who actually banned seabed mining in 2012. So they were the people who put the initial moratorium on.
Yeah.
Then it got extended.
Yeah.
Then I think it got extended again.
And now that's what they want again, is that they want the next, whoever's in power to again extend the moratorium for another period of time to end seabed mining.
As I say, and if you decide to go ahead, you start to, come up to two of your favourite people.
And
which
I'd
are
be
fish-
pretty scared of you, except when you open your mouth.
'Cause I'm like giant fluffy teddy bear. Don't tell your friends. Don't tell your friends. I don't want to lose my image.
Yeah. But tell us what is happening in the
So
community
she's
right
chock-a-block
now.
at the moment right now. Had a good chat to Debbie and Will, who run the Buckley Regional Arts Festival.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been operating for about 30 years. It's very community orientated. Now, what they're doing for the first time ever is they're doing a online streaming of it.
yeah.
Okay, and Debbie said it's been fantastic. And
I think it's from the 31st of July through to the 1st of August.
That is, yep. So
Yeah.
it's the Friday and the Saturday from 6:30 to 8. You can look on their site, which is desertharmonyfestival.com, or they've also got the Facebook site.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's all been pre-recorded. Obviously, you can't have a million people in there at the same time with the COVID spec happening.
And there's like
But
dance and arts.
There's so much involved. There's
Yeah.
storytelling, there's shout outs from various communities. Dion Beasley, who's famous for his cheeky dog.
Oh, yeah, it's the cheeky dogs.
Cheeky dog creator. So he's got a bit of a throwdown on there as well. But there's also good things there, like a couple of groups in the community got together and did a Men's Health Week talk on there as well. And that's always big, whether it's in the communities in the bush
Which I think
area
is very
or close to
important
town.
at the moment, because I was reading that mental health in the Northern Territory is actually one of the worst in the Northern Territory compared to the rest of Australia. So I think
It's one of those statistics that for right across the board, and it's probably not the place to talk about it in length here, but right across the board, the pressure that's come onto people, and people are experiencing mental health issues, and high levels of suicide right across the country, including the Northern Territory. So we need to be aware that is one of the pressures that's around us all the time, and it's the old "Are you okay?"
Well, that's why
Go on,
I
ask
said
the
to
question.
Debbie from Buckley Regional Arts, and I said, look, that's great, because a lot of those communities, as well as here, guys don't like to talk about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But yeah, on a positive note, there's a lot of stuff there. There's a section called My Art, My Culture.
Yeah.
So they've been out to a lot of communities and spread the word, and they've sent in like footage they've filmed, and they've also had Will there doing his professional filming of it as well. And that's
what
great
else-
for those kids
And
to
what
see.
else is happening? Because I believe that Grays is
There's
happening
heaps.
this
There's the
week.
Grays Festival
I
on
don't know what
Saturday.
Grays is. I don't know. I don't know.
Everyone,
no
just
offense to
dresses,
the people that
everyone
run
just
Grays.
dresses up in cow outfits and walks around the,
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
heavily
say,
watered
do I
areas
just,
of
do I
Darwin.
just get on my hands and knees and start eating grass? No, I don't.
It's a festival that's happening on the Esplanade. It's food. It's
Chuppa chups and chewing gum
Right.
for everyone. Yeah.
and then, but
Yeah,
if
gotcha.
you don't want to go to that because that's an 18+ event, there is also the Greek festival. Well, it's not called the Greek festival, but there is a Greek festival happening in Marara. It's free. Everyone can go eat Greek food. Same weekend this Saturday. But also, what else? Is
So
happening?
there's a couple other things. They're talking about putting a dog park in Harriet Place in the city.
yeah.
But then they're going to split it into big dog, small dog, aren't they? Because
Yeah,
originally
yeah,
the
yeah,
idea
yeah,
was, I think you took your small dogs because there's a lot of people living in apartments, and then the big dog people were like, we want to go
Mad.
too, and
Yeah.
then there's now an idea that you're going to have half of Harriet Place for big dogs and half of Harriet Place for little dogs.
I don't know what's happening, but I do know the focus is small
like an
dogs.
arena.
So they're not
of dogs.
outmatched. There's big dogs on big dogs, small dogs fighting small dogs. No, not like that at all.
But I do also know, I mean, we do have to wrap it up, but
Yep.
in terms of the RSPCA, I mean, there was no ball this
No,
year.
so no Save the Paws ball this year.
They're struggling.
Peter from RSPCA said they're going to look at doing it next year. Obviously, we said, how's the funding going? He said, mate, end of the day, any funding is good funding.
Yeah.
So spread the word, get out there, donate to your local RSPCA up in Bolter Road there in Darwin.
Yeah. And thank you so much for joining us this week. It has been a jam-packed show. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay COVID safe. Bye.